You're about to hire a lawyer and sign a legal contract that could determine the next 10 years of your life. But here's the problem. Most people have no idea how to choose the right lawyer, and so they simply decide based on price or shiny marketing, the same way they would go about buying a car or a toaster. Technically speaking, a lawyer's license in the state of California permits them to take any case they want. But here's the problem. Criminal law is highly specialized. Unlike any other practice area, criminal law carries a heavy price for lack of your lawyer's experience, and that price is going to be your freedom. In addition, not all lawyers are created equal. Some lawyers will charge you a bunch of money, but process you in and out of their lives very quickly. Other lawyers will be counselors in a true sense of the word, and they will care about you and protect you the way you would expect. The danger is that if you hire a processor, you're going to spend thousands of dollars just to be a folder in a stack of files or a file on an iPad. But if you invest in hiring a counselor, you're going to end up with a partner, someone who's going to change the course of your case and possibly even your life. Today, in this video, I'm going to give you a simple 5-step test that you can use during your very first attorney interview. These simple questions will tell you in less than 10 minutes if the lawyer in front of you is a true counselor who's going to fight for you and protect you, or a salesperson, someone who's going to ignore you the moment the check clears. Now, I know you're going to ask, why should you listen to me? My name is William Pernik. I'm a criminal defense lawyer in the state of California and a certified specialist in a field of criminal law. I have spent 20 years in a courtroom, both as a public defender and as a private specialist, and as a result, I've seen the system from both sides, in and out. Once upon a time, I was the guy dragging an overstaffed file card with 40 cases in it on a Tuesday morning as a public defender. And I've also been that guy who could afford to spend 100 hours plus on a single case, a single client. So today, in this video, I'm going to pull back the curtain to talk to you about how you can find the right lawyer for your case, because I don't believe that your freedom should depend on whether or not you know how to ask the right questions. Let's get started. Step number 1, the human filter. The lawyer you hire can be either a processor or a counselor. A processor only cares about the charges and how to react to them. A counselor cares about the human being behind the charges and will look hard for a solution to your specific legal problem. Here's the red flag. If the lawyer spends the entire meeting talking about themselves or how well they know the judge or how much money they need today to get started without asking a single question about you or your life, you should run. These people are selling you a feeling and a connection, but they're not going to provide you with a true defense. Here's the test. A true counselor wants to understand who you are and how you ended up in a specific legal trouble. They're going to ask if you've ever struggled with mental health issues, a drug or alcohol addiction, if you've ever served in the military, if you have a professional license or career to protect, or what your immigration status is. These details can dramatically alter your case. That's because California has unique programs that help people in these categories avoid the worst consequences of a conviction. But that's only true if your lawyer talks about these things, as opposed to talking about money or themselves, in which case they're never going to discover these important background details that make all the difference. Here's the question to ask. Other than what's in the police report, what else do you need to know about me as a person to change how the prosecutor or the judge or the jury is going to see this case or get me the best outcome? Step number 2, the specialty log. Once you have confirmed that the lawyer you're talking to actually cares about you as a person, you also want to make sure that they have the actual firepower to fight and win your case. Here's the test. Most people think that any lawyer is just as good as the next. But in truth, in California, that could be a really dangerous mistake. We have one of the most complex felony sentencing systems in the entire country, filled with a lot of diversion programs and treatment courts. The danger here lies in hiring a generalist. This might be a nice person who helped your aunt with an eviction or your neighbor with a divorce, but you should not trust a general practitioner to perform heart surgery. Remember, a jack of all trades, quite often, is a master of none. I'll give you an example. I once was in a Monterey County courtroom where a private lawyer at an arraignment court was about to plead his military client guilty. He thought he was doing a great job because the offer he got was avoiding jail time. But I had to pull him aside and say, hey, stop. We have a specialized program here for veterans. Your client doesn't have to take a plea deal to avoid jail. he can get the entire charge dismissed. Now, that lawyer was a nice guy, and maybe he gave his client a great deal or was doing him a favor and represented him for free. But because he didn't specialize in this line of work, he was about to let a veteran walk away with a permanent criminal record when he didn't have to. So the question to ask is, based on my background and the charges that I have, what diversion programs or specialty courts are available in this county? And how will your experience with California's criminal laws or sentencing laws help me avoid a permanent conviction or jail time? Step number 3, checking the local weather. The specialty law is about the law. Checking the local weather is about the location where law is being practiced in your case. Here's the test. Relationships often matter, especially in smaller, rural counties where there is a specific legal culture. A local counselor knows exactly which prosecutors are open to what kind of negotiation and which judges may prioritize treatment as opposed to incarceration. The local lawyer may be aware of the specific process you need to use to recall your warrant quicker, or how to request an extension that can make all of the difference based on the needs of your specific case or your situation. If you hire an out-of-town lawyer from Los Angeles to handle a misdemeanor case that's a DUI in San Jose for a flat fee, you gotta be realistic. Are they really going to travel 10 hours back and forth for every court date? Or are they going to simply outsource it to someone else and try to settle this case as quickly as possible? While remote appearances are sometimes okay for routine check-ins, if your lawyer is never appearing in court in person, especially for critical moments like contested hearings or a sentencing hearing, you're not being represented. You're being processed. A counselor always stands next to you when your life is on the line. A processor, he's going to phone it in from a distance. So the question to ask here is this: how many cases like mine have you handled in this specific county or courthouse lately? And will you or someone else from your firm be standing next to me in person during the most critical moments of my case? There's a caveat. In some cases, it's okay to have an attorney who has a reputation or expertise in defending a particular type of crime appear from out of county. But if you are charged with a fairly common offense, like DUI or domestic violence or drug sales, you likely do not need to bring a lawyer from 300 miles away to fight for you. A good local lawyer might be a better fit for you, unless the county is super small and the talent pool is very shallow, which sometimes but rarely happens. Step number 4, the wait-and-see trap. In most cases requiring investigation or involving mental health or substance abuse issues, you want a lawyer who is proactive and not an attorney who is reactive. Here's the red flag. If the lawyer says, let's just go to the first court date and see what the DA offers and we'll go from there, they've already given up. They're waiting for the machine to tell you what your life is worth. They're processing it. Here's the test. A counselor acts now. They want you gathering evidence or starting a program today so that when you finally appear before a judge, you are already changing a narrative before somebody has to react to the way you're portrayed in a police report. So here's the question to ask. Mr. Attorney or Miss Attorney, what should I be doing right now before our first court date to improve how the prosecutor and the judge are going to view me? Step number 5, the ghosting test. Communication is key to any relationship, and legal relationships are no different. Most complaints about lawyers come from people being ignored or feeling like they have been ignored. Here's the red flag. If you cannot get past the receptionist to speak to the actual lawyer now, imagine how hard it's going to be when your freedom is on the line. If your lawyer seems too busy for your questions or for your family questions today before you hire them, they're likely going to ignore you even more once they have your money. So here's the test. A counselor is always there for his clients, especially when they go through a hard time. A counselor will explain the why behind the strategy set for the case. They're going to keep you and your family in the loop because they know this is stressful and you are likely scared or terrified. They're going to be your guide through the storm. So here's the question to ask. If me or my family have a question that's urgent about my case, how exactly do we go about connecting with you, or how will you make sure that we're going to get an answer? Here's a caveat. You also want to be respectful of your attorney's time and find a balance between being able to reach them when something goes wrong and calling them every single day to ask about your case even when there are no updates. Like any relationship, bad communication can result in damage or being ignored. It takes two to make it work. And if you found an actual counselor, you don't want to screw this up by being a pest. To make this easy for you, here's a breakdown of what we have discussed. If you see the traits on the left, you're dealing with a factory. But if you see the traits on the right, most likely you found a great advocate. Treat him with respect, treat him well, and you're going to be really well served. Here's my bottom line. You gotta trust your gut. If it feels to you like you're being sold a product, as opposed to being made part of the solution to fix your life and fix your legal problem, you're in the wrong office. At the end of the day, you and your loved ones are paying an expert to save your life. So don't settle for a processor who is just shuffling your file, or even worse, telling you what you want to hear as opposed to what you need to hear. Use the 5 questions I suggested and find yourself a true counselor who's going to see not just the charges, but the human being behind them. Now, I've created a 5-step interview sheet with these exact questions for you to take to your meeting. Your freedom is an investment. It's not a file or a case number. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you next time.